Hey, welcome back to the Bullpen Sessions podcast. My name is Andy Neary, and this is episode 293. Today, I am excited to be joined by Ken Kemker. Ken is a partner and co-founder of DisclosedRX. Full transparency, DisclosedRX is a complete game consulting client, but I wanted to have Ken on to talk about pharmacy. Now, I know this is very much a employee benefits directed conversation today, but I thought it was worth having because let's face it, the PBM space is pretty convoluted and it's usually by design. And I just really like what DisclosedRx is doing in the world of PBMs, from being a fiduciary PBM, a fully disclosed PBM. So by tuning into today's episode, you are going to learn what is happening in the PBM space today, and you are going to learn about a unique solution that most transparent PBMs can't do, and the traditional PBMs definitely won't do. And we are talking about how you can help your clients reduce their pharmacy costs. It's not rocket science. It's just always putting your client's interests first. Interesting. It's a great way to do business. So in this episode, you are going to learn about Ken Kemker, the fact that he lives just outside of French Lick, Indiana. Yep, that is the hometown of the one Larry Bird. So we actually talk about that a little bit. Plus, we dive into the world of healthcare, health insurance, and all things PBM. So I was excited to do this episode with Ken. He's got a lot of knowledge, and I think you're going to find his information insightful, but also very tactical. You'll have some action steps you can walk away with and talk to your prospects and clients about. So let's dive in. Episode 293, Ken Kemker, DisclosedRx. All right. I am here with Ken Kemker, co-founder of DisclosedRx. Ken, welcome to Bullpen Sessions.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me.
You bet. We're going to get into a very enlightening conversation around pharmacy, which is a hot topic that has been a hot topic for a long time in the employee benefits space. However, before we get there, if anybody goes to your profile on LinkedIn right now, they'll notice that you live in around French Lick, Indiana.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
so for the basketball junkies that might be tuning in, everybody knows French Lick, Larry Bird. What's it like living in a town as small as French Lick that has a famous person like Larry Bird?
Well, so I'm about 6 miles outside of French Lick in the middle of the woods. But every time I get on a phone call and folks ask, where are you at? I have to tell them, I live near French Lick. And the first question is always, isn't that where Larry came from? And the answer is yes. Yes. Greatest player of all time.
What is the influence like in town? Is everything Larry Bird this, Larry Bird that?
So there's a whole lot of it. I mean, there's some food establishments, that have his jerseys hanging and memorabilia and all all that go along with that. So yeah, there's quite a bit of his influence in the area.
I'm curious, Ken. Speaking of influence, and what influenced you to get into the employee benefit space? What was that transition like? Most of us did not get in this industry by design. But what was that transition like for you? Talk a little bit about the Ken Kemker maybe before DisclosedRx.
Okay, so before DisclosedRx, I was chief operating officer of another PBM. I was invited to do that from my experience at the executive level of a multinational manufacturer, and I was involved in managing international supply chain. And then also at the higher levels of the executive team, helping to guide and lead that company. And that's how I was recruited into a chief operating officer role for a PBM. And that's how it all started.
It's interesting, having that supply chain background. What was that experience like for you? You were doing it at the manufacturing level in a completely different industry. What was that like for you to come over to this side of the world with that background of supply chain? Did you quickly notice some interesting things about the supply chain on the healthcare side?
Well, sure. So you've got product and service delivery through the pharmaceutical industry, and what a PBM does is to assist employers in managing that part of their purchase, their supply chain for their benefit. And so there's a whole lot of um, business theory and methodologies you can apply into this space that you apply through manufacturing and other businesses. And the easiest example that when I give folks go, oh, okay, that makes sense, is the personal importation, right? I mean, that's supplying therapeutics, acquiring therapeutics from many, many different countries. And that's, you're managing supply chain.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, I can remember I was, selling health insurance for 20 years, but really around 2017 being exposed to this new idea that, wait, we can help manage the healthcare supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Up until that
Yeah.
point, most of us were brokers selling rates every renewal, right? And
Right.
so going back to your time as working with a supply chain on the manufacturing side, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, when you were in that role, what were your biggest priorities helping manage the supply chain for a manufacturer?
Well, so we had supply chain that went through Asia, China, Vietnam, Mexico. And so one of the first things you have to do is make sure your partners are trustworthy, that you can rely on them, because even if it's just a piece of what your end product is you're going to take to market, if they're not reliable, it really throws a wrench into your business. So when you partner for, multinational supply chain management, you really have to find partners,
Mm.
people who you trust as much as you do your own employees. And that's tough to do. That takes a lot of work. But as you develop that supply chain, you can find tremendous advantages through the services and the products that you then package and deliver yourself.
Something I always found interesting, and I'd love your perspective on this from your past on the manufacturing side. I feel like if you ask any business owner who does look at their supply chain, cost of goods sold, most of them know what they're spending with the partners almost down to the penny. When
Mm-hmm.
you looked at how you manage the supply chain on the manufacturing side, was that the case where you're like, hey, if I asked you
Oh,
with this
yes.
partner, what are you spending? Pretty dang clear what you're spending.
Oh, yes. That's the whole point of it.
And that's
That's
what's
the,
so interesting on this side. I remember the one time, one of the few times I actually won an AOR, an agent of record, Ken, in one meeting. I looked at the CEO and I said, tell me who your top three suppliers right now are. And he rattled them off. And I said, do you know what you spend with them every year? He's like, of course. I said, do you know who your top three suppliers are in your healthcare supply chain? He kind of looked at me, but you could tell he got it. And I said, that's the problem. You have no idea what you're spending
yeah.
with them every year. And every year the
Yeah.
costs go up and you just keep paying them.
So this goes to an entire health service delivery system discussion. This is not just the pharmaceutical industry. This
Correct.
is whether it's hospital, emergency room, surgical care, any of the healthcare services that an employer provides to their employees as a benefit. Those costs, those detailed costs, are often very opaque. You don't know. And getting competitive pricing, this clinic versus this hospital for the exact same service, and then your quality of care metrics, can I get the same level of quality care over here that I can currently get here, but at a better price? And so you've got the combination of quality of care, as well as cost of care, that you have to consider, because you don't just want cheaper, right? Especially in healthcare. If the quality of care is less, you don't want that service, even if the price is half what it was, right? You want top level healthcare, but you want to be able to get that same level at the most competitive price. That's the tough part in the healthcare industry today. And it's
Yeah, and
not
I
just
think
pharmaceutical.
that's a
It's
really
across
relevant
the board.
point. This phrase that we've all adopted, cost containment, often tends to ignore quality. It's a how do we lower the cost of healthcare? But to your point, just going and finding cheap healthcare doesn't solve the issue if quality is not addressed.
No, and when an employer is providing a benefit for their employees, the operative word there is benefit. They want it to be to the benefit of their employee. And if you're doing cost containment and delivering a lower quality of service or product, the benefit, the perceived benefit drops precipitously. It's no longer considered a benefit. And so it's important when we're talking about cost containment, it's wrapped within the concept of quality of care as well. And the care goes beyond just the product. If for us, the product is a therapeutic, right? But the product is going to be manufactured at the same location or by the same manufacturer wherever we acquire it. The challenge there then moves towards what is the member care? How are they being treated as they're going through this healthcare system, with RX just being one piece of it? And that whole journey is usually at a time of, high stress already because you had an indication that's, probably concerning. And then you've got all of the cost implications. And so you got someone who's already in a tough spot. That healthcare delivery system needs to really care for that person and not just push them through as a number. When they call to get help, they're not calling because they want to sit on the phone for an hour waiting. They want someone they can talk to get help, and that's how we design our member services. When you call, someone answers, and very quickly, and it's someone who can help you. And if more of the healthcare service vendors had that mindset, the whole industry would be much better for the people that we're here to serve in the first place.
I think that's a great jumping off point where our conversation from here is going to focus is on those three things: quality, cost, and care. And care being the service. Are you providing the support? And if you're an industry partner listening in, I think this is going to be a really insightful conversation for you to tune into. And, it's interesting, Ken, we're going to get into the pharmacy. There's not a week that goes by that I don't talk to an employee benefit advisor that says, the low hanging fruit right now is prescription drugs. It's obvious. But before we get there, let's just take a step back for a second and go, okay, you looking down at the industry from a 30,000 foot view, where do you see the biggest challenges as an industry, as well as the opportunities for improvement?
So, wow, there's a lot to unpack there. And so I want to ask a clarifying question. Are we focusing in on RX piece of the health
We're going to get
system,
there. I want more
or just the
for
healthcare
employers
service?
offering benefits, and advisors selling benefits. Where do you see the biggest? Why is the system so difficult to compete against or beat? Why is the system so convoluted? I would even argue for some advisors, it's a challenging system to try to figure out.
Sure.
Whether
Okay.
that system be
So,
health insurance or health care. Why has this been designed to be such a big challenge for organizations?
so the original intent wasn't for it to be so tough. Um, and the nature of competition took a very emotionally charged topic, healthcare, right? Years and years ago, decades ago, you had your doctor, right? That was your doctor, and you knew them at a personal level, right? And so there was a relationship there that now there are some folks there. So there's great healthcare service delivery out there, and then there's not so great. My doctor's fabulous. He is a family friend. He knows me inside and out. He knows my lifestyle. I get to talk to him when I go in. But there is a need for some healthcare delivery systems to move more people through faster in order to maintain their level of profit, if you will, or even to maintain solvency, right? There's a whole lot of healthcare service systems that are barely making it. And it gets to where the idea of the consumer has been lost, because my doctor and I have a one-on-one relationship. Then you put a broker in the mix, you put a TPA in the mix, and you put a hospital in the mix, and then all of these are part of the service delivery that I now have to deal with. And, who's actually buying the service? Well, my insurance company is, right? I'm just the person who's going to see the doctor, but the doctor's getting paid from the insurance, or the insurance is paying the hospital who's paying the doctor. And the whole idea of who's most important, because who's the consumer, I think has been convoluted and lost. The patient is the consumer of the healthcare. But if there's another entity paying that service provider, where's the relationship, right? And this gets to, so if you want to ask me what's broken, what's broken to me, this is a very, very simple description. And I've told this story 1,000 times, because my 18-year-old son who mows my yard knows what's broken in the healthcare system. And this story goes like this, and I'll put my hands up. So this is my house, right? When he mows my yard, he knows I want my stripes parallel with the front of the house, right? And when he mows my neighbors, he knows my neighbors wants his diagonal. So here's this, in a moment, this will make sense. But I'm going to ask you, when he's mowing my neighbor's yard, why does he mow my neighbor's yard diagonally? And why does he mow mine parallel? Why?
You're each motivated by different things.
Because my neighbor is paying him to mow that yard. So
Okay.
he does it the way he wants it, because that's who's paying him. When he mows my yard, he mows mine parallel because I'm paying him for that job. Right. And
So
so
what I'm hearing you say is the payer is in control.
Exactly. The payer's the boss. The person who pays you is the boss. And the problem is that payer relationship has become so convoluted. The doctor's working for the hospital, but the hospital has other doctors who needs referrals. So now they're giving a, referral fee. So now that doctor, instead of really paying attention to me, is worried about his referral basis, because that's what he gets paid for. And so, in that analogy, the best healthcare isn't always delivered, right? Because that who's the consumer is lost.
Yeah, your point's well made, because I think if you talk to some hospital executives, they'd tell you their customers, the insurance companies, and not the patients that are taking their beds. And it's interesting. I was sitting on a flight a few months ago, right in front of two coworkers that I don't know who they work for, but it was obvious they were working for an organization who teaches hospitals how to optimize revenue. And I was just listening to all the things they were saying about what they're teaching hospitals. And I was literally I almost had everything I do just to hold myself back from not turning around and going, do you see you are not the problem? And it's interesting, Ken, to your point, we're going to talk about quality, cost, and care. And what I'm hearing you say is, number one, the system's built on quantity, not quality. Number two, it's all about profit going up, which means costs go up. And number three, the care, we look at patients now like mere numbers, because as a doctor, I have to see 30 to 40 of them a day just to meet my obligations. So we're doing the opposite of quality, cost, and care.
Well, when we talk about quality, the primary care physician has often a level of compensation that's tied to their referrals, right? Mm-hmm. If they didn't have that, and they were able to be the primary care provider, they would be able to perform 85+% of the healthcare delivery that patient needs. That's high level care. That's high quality care. And then refer when the patient needs it. Not, I have someone who came in with and I'm going to make a bad analogy, a cough. So I'm going to send him to a pulmonologist. That's a bad example, but we've injected too much of the compensation based on non-patient care. Yeah. What I do for other entities, not the member, not the patient.
Hey, real quick announcement, and then we'll get right back into the show. Our next Social Media Sales Academy is starting July 10th. This is an opportunity for you to transform LinkedIn into a lead generating machine. By enrolling into our academy, you're going to learn the exact system, our LinkedIn Diamond Playbook, that we used to generate over $1 million in the last 2 years. If you are a driven insurance professional who is looking to grow your revenue but strapped for time, you're looking for a more efficient way to prospect, or heck, you're watching peers have success on LinkedIn and you want to do the same, this is for you. We want to talk to you. Here's my promise to you. By jumping into this 6-week course, you're going to learn the tactics of using LinkedIn to grow your business. You'll learn how to create a prospect-friendly LinkedIn profile. You'll learn how to find your ideal prospects and send connection requests that get accepted. You'll learn how to post content that attracts the right buyers into your world. And you'll learn how to send direct messaging to them that turns those connections into sales conversations. Quit sitting on the sidelines. LinkedIn has to be a part of your strategy today if you are in the business to business world. And if you are an insurance professional looking to grow your book of business, we want to talk to you. Don't wait. The next academy starts on July 10th. So if you want to know more, all you have to do is to complete gameconsulting.com/social-media-academy. That is completegameconsulting.com/social-media-academy. Click to book a call with our team, see if the academy is a fit for you, and then we will get you enrolled. Again, time is coming up. It's limited. We launch on July 10th. We want you a part of this if you're ready to take LinkedIn to the next level. Well, let's get into the hot button topic here. The reason you're here, let's talk about the thing everybody calls a low-hanging fruit, pharmacy. DisclosedRX is PBM. I go to a conference today in the industry, any conference, I probably see almost a dozen PBMs sitting in the booth, the exhibit hall. And it's really hard these days to differentiate as a PBM because there's so many PBMs out there.
Yeah.
One of the words that gets thrown around very loosely in the PBM world, and I'd love for you to address it, is this word we call transparent.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about transparency as it relates to PBMs?
Okay, so transparent. So I'm gonna make a statement, and whoever's watching this might take you by surprise. We are not a transparent PBM. We don't want to be associated with transparent PBMs. Transparent PBMs, now there are some better than others, so I don't want to be grouping everyone together. But transparent, as it's used in this market space, means that I will tell you something. Okay. And usually a good transparent is going to codify that in their contract. They're going to say, I'm going to tell you this, and we're going to put it in the contract. You can see it right here. I'm going to tell you this. So I'm transparent because I'm telling you this. Okay. So there's no definition that really says for you to take the moniker of transparent, here's the criteria, and here are all of the things you need to disclose to your client. So what ends up happening is another transparent might claim the moniker of transparent, codify it with this line that says, I'm going to tell you this. But what it doesn't mean is I'm also going to tell you this and this and this, which are important, but you didn't ask me about, and we didn't put in the contract, so I don't have to tell you. Okay. That's how transparent is used in this market space. That's why we are not a transparent PBM. We don't tell you this and put it in our contract. There's no definition for transparent. What we do, we're called DisclosedRX. We are a fully disclosed PBM. What that means, and there is a definition for full disclosure. The SEC owns it, and the SEC defines full disclosure, and I'll simplify it. But basically, full disclosure means both parties to a transaction have access to all the information they need, all material information to fully understand the transaction. So I don't have to tell you anything I'm putting in my contract. I say we operate under full disclosure. And what that means is you have access to everything that is material. If it's important, you have access to it as our client. So full disclosure means we're going to tell you everything that's important. Transparent means I'll tell you one or two or three. And so for us, it's full disclosure. And so that's the difference between us as a fully disclosed PBM and a PBM that claims the moniker of being a transparent PBM?
Well, I think it's important you address that the way you did, because let's be honest, the PBM space is a very convoluted space, and I know there's a lot of it. Veteran advisors, myself included, I admit, when even as a seasoned veteran 5-6 years ago, did I know everything I needed to know about PBMs? Probably not. And it's a very convoluted space by design. And I think it's important to be able to break down how they work in terms anybody can understand. And I think what you just said was very, very clear. Now, the other word that you go ahead.
So I want to jump on what you described there, because and this gets to some of the stuff we talked about earlier. One of the most important things when you're doing supply chain management is partnering with someone you can trust. Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason the term transparent entered this market space is because PBMs got caught making backroom deals that the employer did not know of. And those backroom deals, if you're the client, you're inevitably, those costs, whatever costs someone's making with regards to this transaction set, are always going to pass through to the final consumer, right? So if I make a deal where I'm going to keep rebates, or I'm going to get a formulary placement fee, or an international supply channel is going to give me a quarterly market incentive fee, whatever you want to call it, any of those costs that I would keep as a PBM as it relates to me representing this client, eventually are going to be passed through to that client, right? There's no magic to it. They're not paying me because I'm a nice guy. They're paying me because I'm doing something I wouldn't ordinarily do, which means it's not in the best interest of our client. So that gets to, I think, where you were headed with the next fundamental building block of our business is that of fiduciary.
Mm-hmm. It's a word that's not as loosely thrown around, but
Right.
talk to us about why that word is so important. What does it mean to be a fiduciary PBM?
Okay. So first, to answer that, the house analogy, right? The person who pays you is your boss, right? So when we built this business, we kept that concept in mind as we were building our business structure. So in order for us to fully represent an employer, okay, as they're trying to provide a benefit to their employees, and we're sort of an intermediary in their acquisition of therapeutics, in order to fully represent our client, the only person that can pay us is that client, right? If I have a revenue stream, any other source other than my clients, then my representation for my client is compromised. There is no magic to it. There's no compensation that exchanges hands where something isn't expected in return, right? So if I am if I own a pharmacy, I've got a profit motive to run business through that pharmacy. That might not be in the best interest of my client. If I'm retaining rebates, I have an incentive to change my formulary. That's why the rebates are provided, so that you change the formulary to favor some meds over others. I'm now not working in the best interest of my client, right? So the only entity that can pay us is our client. And that means we're acting as a fiduciary, right? So a fiduciary means we have to operate free of financial conflict of interest. Nobody but our clients can pay us, period, full stop. It means every decision we make has to be in the best interest of our clients. That's why our clients would hire us. They're not hiring me as a PBM so that I can get a quarterly kickback from an international supply channel. They're hiring me so that I can represent them in the acquisition of therapeutics for their benefit, for their employees' benefit. That's why they pay us. And so we built this business with a fiduciary contract. Our contract assumes liability if we operate with conflicts of interest, financial or otherwise, we're in trouble. So what our contract does is it protects our clients and our employers' best interests, so they know that when they work with us, they're working with someone they can trust. And that's what we talked about earlier when it comes to supply chain management. Find someone you know you can trust, and then you don't have to know everything there is to know about PBM. If you were a broker out there and you are preparing a benefits package, why in the world would you think you need to know everything that there is to know about PBMs and how they operate? Why? And the reason is because you don't trust them.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to go there. If you trust the partner, you shouldn't have to know.
You don't need to. That's our job. That's why you're hiring us.
Yeah.
If you know everything you need to know, then why would you hire? I mean, if I know how to, do an oil change in my truck, I don't need to take it over to the quick lube. I can do it myself. You don't need to know everything about this business. You need to know that you can trust us, know why you can trust us, and then hand over the reins. We'll take care of that. And you can run your business making widgets, selling whatever, and focus on that and allow us to focus on our area of expertise. So
Well,
that's
and
that's why the fiduciary and the fully disclosed are in place.
yeah. Well, and I like just the basic level at which you broke that down, which is fiduciary means we have to act in our client's best interest at all times. Number one. Number two, the payer is our boss, and we understand who the payer is. It is the employer cutting the bill every single month.
Period.
Nothing.
Yes.
So
it's that
with
simple.
that in mind, Ken, here's what I would love for the brokers listening in, the fiduciary side, the fully disclosed. Let's talk about the three things we were going to talk about: quality, cost, care. Being fully disclosed and a fiduciarily responsible PBM, can't say that, right? What impact does that have on the quality of the pharmacy, the drugs inside a plan, as well as the cost of the pharmacy, the prescription drugs and how they're being purchased?
Okay, so quality. There are services out there that are offered that right now we're not participating in. From an international supply chain, there are countries that are considered tier one, meaning they have supply chain of custody documentation that's as good as the FDA requires. But there are some areas of the world that we're not comfortable importing in because that area has very high levels of counterfeit product, therapeutics, currency, and otherwise. And so we don't work with them. And so there are also products. There's infusions that require being kept at a certain temperature. They're called cold chain meds. And there are folks who will import cold chain meds from different areas. And we don't have a level of comfort across all services that are providing those, that they are in proper packaging, that the meds are monitored. We have packaging requirements for our cold chain meds that have electronic monitoring that's required, so that when our members are getting this cold chain med, we can show and they can be comfortable that the correct temperature was maintained through the entire delivery service of that product. So those are just a couple of examples of how we protect our members and the quality of their therapeutics through our business model.
Well, and I think that's a big important point, because especially with the international importation, quality has always been the biggest fear. I think what keeps a lot of employers from leveraging a program like that is that fear of, all right, what kind of quality are we getting if we're getting medication shipped overseas?
Yep. So our international supply channels have to live up to our member service standards, our delivery standards, our packaging requirements, our for cold chain, our temperature monitoring requirements throughout the service delivery. And so, yeah, that's part and parcel of working with someone you can trust. they're doing it the right way. We have to do it in our members' best interest. That's what our business model is. They're the ones who's paying us. We're not getting a quarterly kickback from an international supply channel, which might make us maybe, okay, I'll overlook this. Yeah, go ahead and send it in that kind of package. That's fine. And then I get my big check every quarter. That's not what my clients hire me to do. They hire me to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
Okay, to make sure it's right, we have to manage the delivery system. We have
Well, I
to
think
do it right.
the term fiduciary should speak for itself in asking, okay, what impact does that have on the costs of somebody's prescription drug spend inside a plan? But for the people listening in going, okay, I understand that this is a fiduciary PBM. What impact is that? What obvious impacts does it have on an employer's prescription drug spend?
So anytime there is in this transaction set, if there would be uh, uh, a backroom deal we would make with a vendor that we're working with. And again, we've been hitting the international supply channel, so I'll stick with it. So if we would be getting a quarterly rebate, incentive, whatever from an international supply partner, okay, say it's 3% or whatever it might be, um, that international supply channel has to make that back, right? They're not just going to give up 3% of their business. What they're doing is they're saying, okay, I'm going to give you 3%. And then when the price comes through, it's going to be inflated and it's going to be passed on to my client. And my client in the end is going to be the one who's paying the PBM that 3%, not the international supply channel. So what we do, and PBMs frequently will find one international supply channel that gives them the biggest rebate, and that's who they send all their opportunities through. We can't do that. So what we do is we have our group of international supply channels that pass our service requirements and our product delivery requirements, including packaging. So we vet out the partners that we are willing to work with, and then they all compete for the opportunity. So their price has to be low, and they want to pay us, and we say no, reduce the ingredient costs. That's what get passed to our client because our client pays us, not our international supply channel. So we're basically running an arbitrage system for international therapeutics that guarantees the lowest personal importation price, period, just because of the structure of that business. No
Yeah.
one else can touch it.
That's what I love about that concept is because of the way you're structured, it creates cost savings.
Everything else takes care of itself. Listen, so this is business 101. This is what's weird about this market space. When we say our competitive advantage is only being paid by our client and making only decisions that are in the best interest of our clients, that's like business 101. It's like, wait a minute, where in the world, what other market space is a competitive advantage making backroom deals that increase the price of the service delivery that your clients have to pay for? Nowhere but right here. And so we've eliminated that.
We'd hope logic wins out, Ken, but we live in a day and time when logic isn't all that prevalent, or at least as not much as it used to. Let's talk about one more area of the PBM space that I think is often overlooked: care, customer service. I think everybody can claim they have the greatest customer service since sliced bread, but I will be honest, I feel like since COVID, no matter what industry we're dealing with, customer service has kind of gone by the wayside, and good customer service stands out even more.
Yes.
How does DisclosedRx view customer service and the customer care you give to the employees inside your clients, your boss, the people paying you?
So we have a cascade in our business that is how we view member service, and it starts with that member has to feel like when we're talking with them, they have to feel like they are the most important person we have ever spoken to. Okay. When they feel that way, then they'll know that we truly care. You know, everybody says, oh, we care, we provide care. We have to demonstrate it in how we interact with them so that they feel and know that we care. And once they know that we care, they will trust us. Okay. And this is how the cascade falls finally. When we have developed that trust with our members, then they will allow us the privilege of helping them. So that's our cascade. And that's how our member service is designed. It's designed from the first discussion to demonstrate the importance and the value of that member so they know we care, so we can build the trust, and then they'll allow. It's a privilege.
Well, it's so interesting that we're having this conversation in a space, as I mentioned earlier, that's extremely convoluted. It has been designed to be complicated. But what we're talking about today are some very practical lessons. But number one,
business 101.
Whoever pays you is your boss.
Yeah.
Number two, customer cares about making that person feel like they are the most important person in the moment and possibly your only client in the moment.
Yep.
And number three, the fact that you are a fiduciary means you always act in the best interest of your client. These are basic business and life concepts that you're applying to the PBM.
Yeah. So our cascade. So when we were building our system for member support, that cascade guided our design. So here's the thing. If someone is going to feel important when you're talking to them, they have to be able to get to you, right? So we built our system so that when you call our phone number, there's two, you got to say English, Spanish, then you have to say member provider. Once you hit that button, within less than 10 seconds, you will have someone on the phone who can help you. That phrase is very important. You will have someone on the phone who can help you. So the person who answers is not someone who's trained to hand you to someone else. It's someone who's trained to help you with your need. I give this example, and this really drives it home. Last time you were at major pharmacy, I won't say a name or I'll get in trouble. Major pharmacy, you go in, there's 10 people back from the pharmacy desk, right? So you got your prescription and you got to wait in line, and then you finally get, 20 minutes later, you get up there, you hand them your insurance card, you give them your prescription, they come back and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't fill your prescription today. And you're like, why not? I've been standing here for half an hour. The birth date on your insurance is different than what's on your driver's license. I can't deliver your prescription to you. And so oftentimes you got to go outside, sit in the parking lot for 20 minutes on hold till you finally get someone 20 minutes later that fixes it. Then you got to go back in and get back in line, 10 people back, and it's another 20 minutes. You're an hour into this, right, to get your prescription. With us, knowing that you can have someone on the phone, like literally in 30 seconds, you can say, oh, no problem, Mr. Pharmacist, give me a moment. 15 seconds later, have them try that script again because my birth date has now been changed because the person who answers can change it, changed it. The pharmacist says, great, here's your prescription. The claim went through. Everything's fine. Thank you. That means in 20 minutes, you got done what with someone else is going to take you an hour. But it's because the design of our system is about you being important and us caring for you, taking care of you the way you want to be taken care of, right? Not the way the economists or the financial advisors would say, build the system so you can have 20, you can have 20 people on the line in the queue and they just work through and that's how you'll make the most money. Business 101 for us, the way we'll make the most money is our members are the most possibly satisfied they could be as a member of the group we represent.
I think it's a good lesson for everybody. Focus on the quality, focus on the care. The cost will take care of itself, meaning you'll make a lot more money as an entity, whether you are a PBM, industry partner, or an agency. Focus on the
Absolutely.
quality, focus on the care. Well, Ken, this has been awesome, man. I wanted to bring you on because obviously the PBM space is a very interesting space industry wide. I think a lot of people have different viewing, varying opinions about it, but what you guys are doing at DisclosedRX is pretty unique. So I wanted to share that with our audience as well. So if there's somebody listening, an advisor who's very interested in learning more about the PBM and what you guys can bring to their clients, what's the easiest way to reach out to you?
I can give you Ken at DisclosedRX.
Perfect. Go check them
It
out at
should be easy to remember.
disclosedrx.com as well. And you're active on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yes. And you
So
help us with that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
you bet. Well, I think this was a very interesting and timely conversation. And I hope that this message getting out is going to encourage a lot of advisors to reach out because you guys are doing some good things. We've seen the case studies. They're pretty dang impressive. And so, yeah, man, thank you. Thank you for taking time to have this conversation today.
Thanks for having us. A lot of fun.
And everybody else, if you're listening in, you're an employee benefit advisor, or you're on a team that has employee benefit advisors, you're looking for a differentiator, way to stand out, give DisclosedRX a look. Reach out to Ken at DisclosedRX.com, or go check out his content on LinkedIn, guys. They're doing great things, getting amazing results for their clients. So if you want to create a differentiator for your clients, this is a great way to do it. Be good. That's all we got for today's episode of the Bullpen Sessions podcast. One thing that would really help us both and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in to listen to the show. Also, make sure to link up with us at CompleteGameConsulting.com on social media. And please share this podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. Until next time, remember, clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. Consistency makes you unstoppable.